Welcome to the Progression Health Podcast. I'm here with Darioush Edabat. Darioush, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, hey. My name is Darioush, and I am a fitness coach based in San Francisco, and I've been helping runners for a little over 5 years, and I've been loving it ever since doing that.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
So how did you initially get into running? What was like the first prompt that really just like sparked your interest in running?
Yeah, so I used to actually play soccer, middle school, high school, and a little bit of college. So running was actually something that got me as a punishment to do extra suicides or sprints or whatever have you. So running wasn't always like the top of mind thing to do. But one day my cousin and a few friends decided to go on a long run. It was 8 miles, and I decided to say, let's just try it out. Let's make it happen. And so I did, and ended up getting what not a lot of people can experience, but a runner's high, where I felt like I was on top of the world. I felt great. My body was sore after, but I have been trying to chase that feeling ever since. So, yeah.
Love it, yeah. And what was that initial drive that made you want to do an 8 mile run when you'd never run before?
I mean, I've always had general fitness, and I've had like a really strong background in weightlifting, and I just know, and I remember when I played soccer, I had like good feels of running for like an hour or 90 minutes for the workouts for the games for soccer, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to chase that feeling again, and I thought maybe 8 miles, okay, that'll probably get me to an hour and a half, like maybe that'll be something. And so I gave it a shot, and it was all around San Francisco, and it was a great run. So felt great.
Love it, yeah. Good first experience, yeah.
Yeah.
So what kept you going after 5 years? Because I think a lot of people, like, once they have that kind of soreness after a long run, and it sets in about like how challenging it was, and it can be daunting. Oh, I have to run 8 miles to get that runner's high. Yeah, what like kept you coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it was is, San Francisco just has so many great views. And so a part of running is that you really get to see parts of the city that you live in, or areas that you've been before, but maybe you just haven't been running those areas. But when you are running, you get to see different aspects of the community, different aspects of the scenery. And so when I got that 8 mile run, that first run, we were on Ocean Beach, went up through Presidio, and it was just amazing views. And so I've been chasing running with views as a combination. And so, like, for instance, like the runs that I've been doing for my half marathons are been like Montana and Glacier National Park as an example, Hawaii. And so I think that running with a view is like what I've been chasing, and that's what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, so you're obviously getting the fitness benefit, but you're getting the nature as well.
And aspects of a city that I've lived in for years, but now that I've run, I'm like, oh wow, there's all these places that I haven't seen before, but now I want to do when I'm not running, and I want to go hang out with a friend, either with a bar or a restaurant or whatever have you. It's now something like, oh, okay, that's a cool place that I can go to next.
So yeah, it's like way more than just like a punishment like it was at the start. It's grown.
Now it's like an adventure. I get to see things that I couldn't do in my car, that I couldn't do with just walking around with friends. Because when you're jogging or just going at a slightly faster pace than a walk, you get to cover more distance for a short period of time. And so finding different routes when you run is also like super beneficial, because then you find things that you've never seen before in the city or town that you're in.
Yeah, totally. What are some of like routes you've discovered that you really enjoy running in the city?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say that, so I work in Pack Heights at a gym called The Yard, and sometimes when I finish the day or when I have like time in between clients, I'll like to go run there. And again, it's not the best situation because there's a lot of traffic lights and things like that, but I get to see a lot of restaurants that I've never seen before. I also kind of sometimes, because it's near the marina, so I'll also get to kind of be next to the water, sometimes make my way to Golden Gate Bridge and back. So there's like a mix of like, I get to see the random restaurant spots that are like hidden in San Francisco, but then if I wanted to just be next to the water, I have that. Or if I want to see the Golden Gate Bridge for a view, I got that too. So yeah, the place next to where I work, I think, is a good spot.
Yeah, it's like all these hidden gems in the city.
Yeah.
So I feel as though we're making running sound a little bit easier than what it is. Like to run
True.
for 5 years is pretty hard. To run 8 miles is pretty hard.
Yeah.
So what are some of like kind of challenges, struggles you had to overcome to just like, and I think anybody who runs for 5 years, this is common, but let's just say somebody who's only been running for 5 weeks or 5 months, they mightn't understand things you go through and things you learn as well. Because the challenge isn't just a negative.
Yeah.
There's like the positive aspect to it as well. So yeah, what are some challenges you've kind of overcome in those 5 years?
I would say that when you start getting a grapple on being able to stay consistent with running, you're going to start feeling aches and pains that you've never felt before. And that could be shin splints, that could be feeling your hips a little bit more than normal. You could even feel like your shoulders tightening up. And so that was a new experience because I used to play soccer. I weightlift regularly. And so going from doing something that's active, you're moving your body, but then transitioning to a sport that you would think that wouldn't be as complicated or as intense to your body, but because you're doing different things, you're mechanically using your body in a different way, you're using muscles that you don't use on a day-to-day basis. So when you put in more miles on your feet, so let's say you were running maybe 3 to 5 miles a week, and then you transition to do maybe 10 to 15 miles a week, you're going to start feeling the shins work a little bit more, the quads maybe work a little bit more, your glutes, your core. There's going to be different aspects to your body that's going to be working more than you're used to. So just accepting that, but then knowing that, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I can still run? And so like making sure you're getting your mobility in, making sure that you're stretching and doing things that you know you're going to need that recovery for, so that you can continue with the higher mileage that you want to do.
Cool. Yeah. And like, do you have any specific kind of injuries or instances where you really had to like dig deep to overcome something? Like you mentioned shin splints or...
Yeah. So recently, the run club that we run, we all together did a thing called Fear and Loathing. It was a 50K in the city, and that's about 32 miles if no one knows the distance there in terms of mileage. But yeah, I got a bunch of people to do it with me. It wasn't about the time, it was more just getting the miles in. But yeah, mile 27 of the 32, I ended up hitting a pothole and really messed up my ankle. Not in a way that's like, oh man, this is donezo for me, but I had to contemplate for about 5 minutes on the ground of what do I need to do. And I know I set out on a goal, and knowing my body enough and having the background that I have, if I knew that there's just no way I could put any load on that foot, I wouldn't have gone any further. But knowing that there wasn't any pinching, anything extremely chaotic with my ankle, I decided to push through, and I walked the last 3 miles of that marathon. It was tough. I had a lot of contemplations while walking up a hill. If anyone lives in San Francisco, we had to go at the very top of Twin Peaks to end the race. So the last 3 miles were just uphill. And so, yeah, it was tough, but got it done. And honestly, very, very happy that I did. And I didn't give up. And I mean, there's small instances that you know your body. And so if you need to quit, you got to quit. But persevered, and I made it happen. So it was good.
And you got it done, yeah.
Got it done.
Yeah. So you started off with 8 miles. That sounds like a pretty like hot start.
Yeah.
And in your very first run, and then you're doing a 32-mile run. So like,
yeah,
is that the typical course for a lot of runners? Like, why do you want to like run that far? To be expected that people can jump and start and do 8 miles in their first run, and then also get to 32 in year 5?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I would say everyone's journey to running is a little different. So like some aspects to people running is I just want to do it as a hobby. I want to stay reasonably fit cardiovascularly, and doing that, I just go on runs 3 miles here, 5 miles there. So that's perfectly fine. Other people may say that they want to do a marathon or a race, and with those races, those pack on more mileage. And having the set in stone mindset of like, I'm just gonna run here and there to just make this happen, it's a little tough. But I would say with training, and when you have a training plan and then you see that training plan give you the results that you're needing, you're kind of like almost like, I want more. So yeah, like I ran my first full marathon in San Francisco, and I was expecting just anything under a 4-hour marathon, and I ended up doing 15-16 minutes faster than I was expecting. And I did my training plan to a T. I was going speeds that I wanted to do in my speed workouts, doing my long runs, and I was able to do that distance. And so when you get that, it's a high that you probably would never feel in a way that's like just wanting you to want more out of a run. And so again, when it comes back to running and views and experience, experiences, I think that's where it got me to want to do the 50K. And then we're also doing the 60K in Zion. Again, another place that's like great views. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but doing it with friends and being able to just say you did the distance is, I think, something that is what's hyping me up right now.
Yeah, you'll be doing the 60K. I'll do the half and then
Yeah.
I won't be doing the 60K.
This is true.
Okay. So some people might like struggle with consistency in running. They might be kind of like, I'm on the wagon, I'm off, or, you know, I have a good couple of months or whatever, but then for whatever reason they fall off. So how helpful was like a training plan and support from like a group or social support?
Oh, it was...
Especially with the marathon.
That first marathon that I did, doing that and like just knowing that there's a lot of opportunities for your body to fail, for your body to get injured, for your body to not be able to say that it could do it again. And so going into wanting to do that marathon, my head was in the place of like, not only do I want to do this marathon, but I want to do more runs in my future. So I was like, all right, like maybe I should just do this right. And having a training plan kind of makes the guessing out of your training, where it's not about like, what do I do tomorrow? It's like, okay, this is what I have to do. Now, when do I do it? And so when you have that training plan, you can plan it around your week of like when this needs to get done. And running is such an interesting sport because you can't do the time of like the pace or whatever that you need and literally just wake up tomorrow to do it. You need to put time on your feet. It's like, it's something that everyone will tell, like, okay, this person's going at an 8-minute pace, like 7-minute pace, 6-minute pace. Well, that person obviously is doing the work to be able to get that pace. They've probably been doing running for years to be able to get there. Some people are a little bit faster than others and they can see faster progress. But again, at the end of the day, it's just about putting time on the feet. It's about really just being dedicated. And so having that plan, it takes the guessing out. And you just know you have to do it, and you will figure it out to make it happen, especially if it's something that is a priority.
Yeah, it like rules out a lot of the guesswork, like you mentioned. Yeah, because if we give ourselves a chance to flake, oftentimes we'll take it, especially if we haven't done something like a marathon. Yeah. Yeah. And then just with like running groups, with Progression Run Club, yeah, what like impact or effect does that have for your running? Like, how has it even changed your running actually since not being a part of it?
It's so much fun doing things like running intervals or speed work or even just doing long runs on your own is doable, but it's really hard. It's really hard to get your goals. It's really hard to push yourself more than you would think. And having people there, even if they're slower or faster than you, it's kind of just like the presence of that person being there really helps you kind of push more than you would do on your own. And again, there's going to be good days that you're going to have by yourself that you'll be able to push yourself. But having those people that are either slightly faster than you or slightly slower and you hyping them up or them hyping you up in your run is a game changer. And so being able to do our Tuesday, Thursday speed work, where Tuesday we do intervals, Thursday we do tempo runs, those definitely made the change and the ability that I was able to get 15 minutes faster of my goal for the marathon. And so having, again, a plan, but also maybe having camaraderie with fellow runners in your community in your city, or maybe you travel often, maybe just looking for run clubs to kind of help guide you for pacing you for specific paces that you want, or just getting the miles done. Having someone there, it really makes the run a lot easier. And so that's what Progression Run Club has done for me, for sure.
Yeah, the accountability is huge as well. Yeah. Great. So you used to play soccer growing up.
Yep.
And then you got into running, and SF is a huge like running city. It's crazy how big it is here. What is it about running that like you just enjoy it so much, you find it so interesting? Because like if you've played soccer when you're a kid, it kind of would seem that you would continue doing that, but you've really pivoted into the running, and it's actually, it feels like a very natural transition that as people get older, they get more into running. What do you think it is? And for you, why do you enjoy running so much?
Yeah. So I would say with running, it is the easiest barrier to entry as a person that used to be an athlete, but now isn't, and just does recreational, let's say like weightlifting, or you play like, I don't know, recreational sports. Running is the one thing that you don't really need any equipment. You can literally just put on some running shoes, step out your front door and be able to just go. And so being able to have that be the easiest kind of just like, I want to do this, I think everyone can kind of go into that realm. But I would say another thing too with running is that you are against yourself in every race, because there's the people that are the Olympic athletes that do crazy times, like 4:30 with Kipchoge, like doing those crazy paces. Yeah, 4:34. Like that's just insane. But I would say say that there's so many people running now that like you can't think about everyone else around you because you don't know when they started, when they stopped that race. So it's kind of just like you against yourself, and you really are going out for the outcome of like what you can do. And so I think that's what's beautiful about running is like everyone wants to hype each other up because it's not a competition of who's going to be better or whatever, because no one, like, you don't even know when you're in a race, like if that person started a few seconds before you, a few seconds after you, you just know that you guys are both in pain and you're going through this race. And so hyping people up during the race or whatever is a big thing. And I think that's what is making the running scene just so much more attainable and now just like kind of crazy in growth. Like I think like in terms of signups for races, it's now like over 10, 20, 30% than what it was a few years ago. So I'm excited. I'm happy that everyone's getting into something that they can kind of achieve for themselves. And again, it's not the goal of like your age group, your weight or whatever. It's kind of just up to you on what you want that goal to be.
Yeah, it's like choose your own adventure type of thing where any age, any size, so many different types of races, especially in SF actually, just like the 5Ks, all the way up to the ultras. So yeah, there's something for everybody with running. Yeah. And you just need a pair of shoes and shorts and off you go, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if we look at running like a teacher in your life, right, and it has taught you some lessons, what lessons has running taught you? Or what have you picked up?
Okay. I would say for my first marathon, I actually got a nutrition coach. Because when I started looking up marathons and like what is the best practices, what are the maybe good training plan, I started noticing more and more runners kind of like their body kind of not being able to have control of it towards the end. And I was like, oh wait, why is this? Like, this is so interesting that this happens to a lot of people. And it really comes down to the nutrition, where it's how much carb loading you're doing as well as how much you're hydrating your body. Cramping typically comes from you not having enough water, and then you having loss of body function and things of where you see people starting to pass out. It might just mean that you just don't have enough sugar or enough calories to be using for energy during your run. So carbs are really important. Hydration is super important. Second is like strategy in your race, because some people will get too excited in a run and then they'll gun it. They'll go as fast as they can in the beginning, and you have 26 miles that you have to do. Or let's just say if you're doing a half marathon, you have at least 10 more that you have to do. And so if you're going too fast too soon, you're going to lose everything that you trained for. And so having a strategy of how you go into the race, as well as nutrition. So what are you eating while you're training? And then what are you eating right before the race? And then what are you eating during the race? And then maybe even after as well. So those are all things I would say are things that I learned that have helped me for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy how much you learn through experience and multiple races. And racing is a skill in and of itself as well. So that's why it's really important for someone looking to get faster to race. What for someone doing like a half or a full, I know they're obviously different, but what is like a basic protocol you'd give for someone, like let's just say a week out, they're kind of like, they might have a race coming up soon and they're just like, what can I apply right away in terms of like hydration and nutrition that you've learned?
Great question. I would say that for hydration, the best thing I would say is if you think you've had enough water, think again. You probably need more. So as an example, just for like a daily without running, this is just for normal people. If you weigh, let's say 100 pounds, right? And that's very, very light. But let's say you weigh 100 pounds, just for math's sake. You need to have 50 ounces of water. That's half your body weight in ounces. And that's just you're doing basic day things. And so if you're only having 50 ounces, let's say 30 ounces, let's say only 32 ounces of water, that's not enough. And so you're running on top of that. So you need to have more than you think. So you can do that. So think about having half your weight in ounces for water. But then two is like, how do I make it so that that water sustains in you? And that's going to be more on like salt. So think about your element, your noon tablets. Those things will help tremendously, especially when you're accessing a lot of sweat. Two is finding the right goo or the right gel while you're running. Like in the process of running, like what can you have in terms of food that is going to sustain in your stomach? It's not going to make your stomach not feel great. And so playing around with a lot, I would say 9 times out of 10, if I suggest this, it works really well for most runners, but Morton gels typically don't give you an upset stomach. So that's like a brand I pretty much refer most of my people for, but But again, everyone's body's different. So try all the gels, and it's really going to be about trial and error for gels to see where that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, use the build up when you can to practice all of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I wouldn't do a week before and say, try a gel. I would say you should have been trying gels. But again, if you haven't been trying, I know that Morton most likely will not give you stomachache. So get a Morton for your race, like a half marathon, full marathon. I would say the less distance races are the 5K or the 10K. Maybe you can pass off without having any gels, but yeah, definitely anything half marathon or more, you should be training with the gels and seeing what sticks and what's good for you.
Absolutely, yeah. Trial and error, try a few different things out, yeah.
Yep.
So something I've run into in my own running is like I'll get too excited, I'll run too much, I'll run too hard, I'll run too long, and basically just get burned out.
Yeah.
And I'll like want to run, but my body's just like, slow down, bro. Like
Yeah.
just, we can't do it. This is insanity.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you say to someone who's on the opposite end of things and they're like burnout is an issue?
Yeah, I would say that if you're feeling burnout while you're running, it's probably because you are doing too much. And I mean, again, like you want to stick to your plan for the most part, but there's ways that you can still get runs in that can make the run either more exciting or might not burn you out as fast. So example is I like to change the location of my runs, so it's not like the same thing over and over again. Also, again, like going back to the views, I think like when you see a good scenery, it kind of distracts you from what you're feeling in the run. That would be another thing. It's okay to have a rest day as well. So if you're burnt out and you're like, dang, my body is not feeling great, I don't think that I can do the run. There is a lot of mental capacity, right? Sometimes you just gotta get it done. But there are cases where maybe you just need to rest, recover, do yoga, do some stretches, because maybe that day, if you didn't get good sleep, as an example, or your body's tighter than normal, or you're just not feeling 100%, those are days that potentially you can get injured. Especially, I mean, it's so funny because like you would think like, oh, sleep is fine. Like I got like 4 or 5 hours, it's fine. No, it can actually truly impact you because your motor functions of how you move your body, it slows down. When you don't have enough sleep, you can't control your body as like fluidly as you would typically like. And so yeah, getting good rest, moving your body in a way that makes you feel good. So yoga, stretching, whatever, and then maybe just doing walks instead of a run that day just to get your steps in, but not hitting it. That could sometimes help with the burnout.
Yeah, so like being flexible.
Yeah, being flexible.
Yeah, giving yourself a break when you need the rest day.
When you need the rest day, you got to get it done. And again, like it's not ideal to not have it done when your plan is that you have to do it. But I think you just truly have to be okay with having one day off. Now, I wouldn't make it as a consistent thing, right? So want to make sure that like 1 day, 2 days max, you're off the boat, but you got to get back on and keep persevering and make it happen.
Yeah, the consistency is key.
Yep.
So something I see with people with goal setting and running is that they'll either have like this like crazy outlandish goal, like a 60K.
Yeah.
or they'll be like afraid to set a goal at all. They'll be like, oh, I don't know if I can run a mile or if I could do a 5K.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for people who are just like struggling with setting goals and they're looking for some advice?
Yeah, so I would say one is you want to make sure that the goal that you reach, especially if it's something that you're starting out as fresh or new, you want to make it an attainable goal. Because if you're like, I haven't run ever, but I want to do a marathon, that's a hard goal to achieve. Because if you're not running, from a couch to a 5K might be a better goal that you can kind of start, but a 5K is 3 miles. A marathon is 26.2. So you want to make sure that you're not going off the boat or off the rail with too much of a goal. And again, everyone's different. Some people can go from not running at all to then being able to run a marathon. But again, it's mental grit. It's definitely a huge thing mindset-wise that you need to know where you're at in life. Some people are like on the verge of collapse and can't do much. And there's other people that have a strong mindset. They're in a good place in their life where they're like, I want to do something crazy. And so from a 0 to a marathon is attainable to their mind. But again, I would say know where you're at in life. And once you know where you're at in life, then choose your goal and make it an attainable goal. And know like how much time you have. Because a marathon is a second job. You're 100% working a 9 to 5 low key with all the training that you have to do. So like a couch to 5K, very reasonable. Maybe even a 10K, 15K, whatever you can see yourself doing, and then go from there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And kind of following on from this, like we had a talk earlier, we did a run today and we were talking about failure and how you felt like it was actually not a bad thing to set yourself up maybe to fail in your goals because there's like a lesson in the failure.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I was talking to a friend and we were in a run, and she was telling me that she likes to be under promise to then over deliver, meaning that she'll say, okay, maybe I can do 5 miles, and then she'll do 6, and then that's an over delivery of her, and that gives her positivity to then be able to be like, okay, cool, now I can do more. But there's another piece to this, because running is very important with mindset, where I kind of brought it out to the other direction, where you set a high goal and you might not be able to get to that goal. So let's say you want to be able to do a half marathon. That's 13 miles. Let's say you only get 10 the day that you set out to do the 13. You failed, right? You didn't get the miles that you wanted to get done, but knowing that when you failed, that it is okay, and that tomorrow's another day, and that is another day that you have the opportunity to get to that goal. And so when you have that failure happen, it's now more about what you do based on that fail. Because then there's going to be, honestly, there's some times where runners don't finish their race. And there's definitely a lot of different scenarios of why that is. Sometimes it's an injury thing. Sometimes it's actually that they didn't fuel properly and they're throwing up. Their stomach's not feeling great. There's a lot of variables that could be happening as to why that happened of an NF not finish. It's about how do you feel when that happens and what are you going to do about it after the fact. And so I think it's more of that as a runner, because running is a huge thing on mindset. And so I would say obviously don't overdo it, but just know that it's okay that the times that you have a big goal that it doesn't happen, it's okay, and move on and be able to be like, you know what, I got the next one. Like for instance, I did the 50K. I was in the process of almost not finishing. I did finish and that's great, but I know that if I didn't finish, I wouldn't have been too hard on myself, because I know that there's a thing that happened and it's something out of your control, and you just got to be like, look, like I tried hard and I made good moves and I was able to do 27 miles without getting injured. 27 miles is an ultra. Anything past 26.2 miles is an ultra. So I got that done, but just knowing that failure is okay, and that tomorrow's another day, and that another opportunity for you to get the goal that you want.
So yeah, with the failure, do you feel like you just picked this up like through running, that it's like it's okay? Like did you have to learn that yourself? And has like failure been an essential part of your running career?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think failure has a lot to do with all aspects of life. So I'm a business owner, and so running a business, when you fail, it's on you, number one. But number two, I can't cry about it. If I cry about it and I shut myself out in a corner, that doesn't give me $1 the next day. So it's like, even though it's like a really harsh thing to say, it's about like, okay, this happened. I'm going to accept what this happened. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop worrying about it. And now what do I need to do to change the outcome? How do I make it better for myself? And so having that failure be into business, have that failure being into running, and having that failure be in all other aspects of life, I think it just gives you a stronger mindset overall as a person that's living this world. And I think it makes you a better person, because through failure you learn, and then through learning you change and you kind of adapt to things that do favor you and go in the right direction.
Yeah, interesting. So like, is there any specific instances where you felt like, aside from the fear and loathing race, where you had like a pretty big failure, like maybe you had a big goal and you fell short and you learned a lot from that failure?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say my first half marathon. I wanted to do a sub 2, and I ended up getting 2:06 or 2:07. So I was a few minutes away from 2-hour mark, and I was dying. I didn't fuel, and I did not have electrolyte. It was water. And it was more towards like mile 8, 9 that I was dying. I was dying in that race. And I remember, because it was the San Francisco half, the last bit of it was all uphill. And I literally was like, I don't want to be here anymore. This sucks. And looking back at that, if I just like had the right tools, the right knowledge of like, okay, what does nutrition look like? What does hydration look like? I know that I would have probably been able to do my sub 2, because it's so interesting, because you go into things, you're like, oh, well, running is running. Like it's a human movement. Everyone should just know that is the thing. And distance, okay, whatever. I see everyone do 13 miles. So you're like, okay, I can just do that too. But really it's like, yes, people do this, but there's ways that you can learn how to move your body so that you can prevent injury. body, and that's through strength training. There's ways that you can feel good in longer distance runs, and that's through fueling, right? So that's with gels. That's also with hydration, with like Element or Noon, different electrolyte stuff that will help you feel good and be ready for your race. So knowledge is power.
Most definitely, yeah. And the experience as well is invaluable that you gain from that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned strength training. Just talk, about the importance of strength training for running. I know it myself, but I'm sure other people who haven't really experienced the benefits of strength training, especially in combo with their running, they're missing out. So what would you say to those people?
Oh, it's crazy. So I'm actually a biomechanics coach, and so I help people learn to use their body efficiently for their runs. And with strength training, it helps you kind of get something called proprioception, where you have a stronger mind-body connection. And with a stronger mind-body connection, you then use your body as efficient as possible, and it makes the runs a lot more effortless. And so with strength training, so for instance, doing unilateral movements like lunges, single leg RDLs, Bulgarian split squats, all the ones that most people hate, that helps you kind of figure out which side is weaker for you, and then being able to train it to bring it back to equalization. So making it so that your body left side and right side can actually work together, instead of saying that, oh, this is my left side it's just more weaker, so I'm going to use my right side because I feel stronger with it. And so finding those things, also kind of moving your body in a way that benefits you in your run, changes the game. And so with strength training, you find those things and you think that like, oh, well, I'll just do these or that. It's a fine line, right? Because if you can figure out how to strengthen your glutes, how to strengthen your quads, how to strengthen your hamstrings and all aspects of your lower body, that alone helps stabilize your hips to then prevent you from feeling horrible in your knees, horrible in your shins, horrible in your ankles, and the list continues. So preventing injury, strength training is the way to go.
Sweet, yeah. And then like if someone had 10 minutes, they could only get to the gym and do like one exercise or two exercises as a runner, what would you pick? They can do 8 sets, right? So they can do the 2 exercises for 4 sets each. And let's just say their warm-up's done, they've 10 minutes. What do you recommend?
I've actually had this question many times through clients. And I've thought about this. I would say the 2 that would be most beneficial would probably be a Bulgarian split squat and push-ups. The reason why I say that is Bulgarian split squat, you can position yourself in a way that you can target more in your quads or your hamstrings, or you can also target your glutes more. And it's just the way you position your body in the specific exercise. Push-ups, because you're now fixing your posture, you're strengthening your chest, your back, your core, and you can do variations on the push-ups as well. So I would say those 2 would probably be my exercises of choice.
Yeah, great call.
Yeah.
So we're trying to incorporate strength training into the Progression Run Club. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about Progression Run Club and what's going on?
Yeah. So me and Ross started it up, and I think our vision...
I'm Ross, by the way.
Yes. We started it up because we saw that there is a gap in run clubs where people were socializing, and it's great. It's amazing. People are running, and they're finding different runs. So people are learning more about, okay, what does a speed workout look like? What does long runs look like? Why do we do the long runs? Why do we do the speed work? But on top of that is like a lot of runners, though they are doing all these things, they're getting injured pretty constantly. Or runners are just not doing anything but running. Running is their only form of fitness and activity, and that's where people get injured. And so as fitness coaches, as strength coaches, we know the importance of that, and we are runners at the same time. So we know all the mental grit you need to be as a runner, and we also know why it is so important to be able to strength train. And so we made Progression Run Club as a club that not only does the runs that you need to do, but also helps you learn about what strength exercises you need to do to prevent injury, feel strong in your runs, but also be able to hit distances as well as speed or pace that you've never seen before. And that all goes through strength training. And so with our knowledge, I think it's gonna change the game for most people.
Yeah, for sure. And what are you excited about coming up in the new year with the Run Club?
Oh man, okay, so we have a lot of things in store. I think right now we've kind of discussed that every quarter we're going to be doing some social events, which is really exciting. Another thing is we have 2 location races that we're trying to have everyone go to, as many people as possible. So we got a Zion, and then the next race is to be determined, but we might be going to Santa Barbara, so that'll be fun. And then we're also going to be gearing up for the San Francisco Marathon marathon where we're going to have a program for you guys. It's going to be about 16 weeks. It's a strong amount of time that's going to really set you up for the success for the marathon. But there's also going to be strength training involved. And I think that's what sets us apart, and that's what's going to change this program a little bit for most runners that just have a random game plan that's either on ChatGPT or Google or whatever. We know what we're doing. We've been in the running industry for a long time, and we train a lot of runners that have injuries. And so we want to make sure that you guys are running pain-free and having a lot of fun with all the programs that you have in store for you.
Absolutely. A strong plan for stronger runners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Last question. So
Sure.
This is just like from a friend, someone who struggles a little bit with running.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like running always hurts. Yeah, I feel like that's a common one. A lot of people complain initially. It does hurt. Even we've run for a while.
Yeah.
It still hurts, but the benefits
Yep.
outweigh the drawbacks. So what can a person who is finding running a pain, but they're motivated, they want it to make it more enjoyable, how can they make it more enjoyable and more manageable?
It's a great question. I would say that a lot of runners start faster than they think. And what I mean by that is when you're running outside, there's probably a few people running out there as well, and you see them running at a certain pace, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I think that's probably what I need to do too. So you try to follow that runner, or you just see people running like really fast most of the time. And so you think that, oh, okay, I need to go this pace as well. That burns you out the fastest. I would say the best runs that I've ever had is actually going really slow. It's so crazy that like social media will be like, oh, zone 2 run, and it would be like a 7-minute pace, which is insane, by the way. I think if you were to do a 9-minute pace, you are going to get a 2-hour half marathon. By the way, just to put that out there, 9-minute pace. People are going at a 7-minute pace saying that's easy. It's not easy. So I would say think about how fast you're going and then go slower than that. Because at the end of the day, you want to feel good. And so being able to maybe have a friend with you to have a conversation. I know that's a thing that is all over the internet, but it really is. If you can keep a conversation while you're running, that means that you're at a reasonable pace that is comfortable enough where you can feel good in your run. So that would be number 1. Number 2, again, it's a little bit on that nutrition piece. So like if you're running on an empty stomach, your stomach's not going to feel great. And so I would say like a quick fix to that you typically will go to is like a banana with peanut butter. Gives you the carbs you need. It gives you a little bit of protein. You can also do like a piece of bread and peanut butter as an example. You just need carbs. Carbs is the fastest way that burn energy for your body. And so having that before a run is great. And then also water. Make sure you're drinking enough water.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah.
Great points. Is there anything you want to let people know about or finish up on as your final message?
I would say that here's another thing that I see a lot of people doing is that you get intimidated or for a distance, or that, oh, I've never really ran a certain pace, a distance. I would say that if you have that feeling, know that most run clubs, so not every run club, most run clubs will have people that will motivate you, that will keep you with a run, and that will get you to do something that you've never done before. We've had so many people in our run club right now that think that they're only going to do 2 miles, 3 miles, and these are our long run days. And we're like, you know what, man, if you want, like, absolutely no pressure, you can always stop, but I think you got a little bit more in you. We've had so many people that do 2 to 3 miles in their head, but then they're actually doing like 10, 11, 12 miles. It's crazy. I have even some of my clients, they just are like always going so fast, right? So you're like, oh, this is so hard. Why is this so hard? And then they run with us, and then it's like, wait a second, I'm able to do way more. And then they finish the run. They do the distance they've never done before in their life. They're like, oh, I got more gas in the tank. I can actually do more. Maybe I'll do more next time. And so what I'm trying to say is like your mind is tricking you saying that you can't do this. I think that you can. Ross knows that you can. And I think that if you just give it a shot, you try it out for once to come to one of our runs, I guarantee you I'll motivate you to do at least 1 more mile than you think you can. So yeah, that's it.
That was exactly my experience with our 4 mile run today, and because I was running with you guys, I was able to just push through that. And so
yep,
don't listen to that first thought. Test it, challenge it out.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right, great work.
Absolutely. Cool.